Imagine a city so rich, so beautiful, so full of life, that it vanished in a single morning. A place where people had everything: wealth, power, fertile lands, and the freedom to do whatever they wanted. But beneath all that luxury, a terrible darkness grew. Their actions were so bad their cries reached heaven itself. And God came down, not with an army or a flood, but with fire. This isn't just a story about destruction. It's a powerful lesson about judgment, mercy, and a warning for us all. It's about a man who bravely asked God, "Will you truly destroy the good people along with the bad?" Before the fire fell, before the sky turned to flames, heaven listened. God remembered Abraham, and because of his mercy, one family was saved from the fire. This is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, a tale of ruin, but also a beacon of hope for those who trust in God's kindness. Long ago, in the ancient land of Canaan, two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, stood proudly in the Jordan Valley. They were rich and fertile, like a beautiful garden, full of life and plenty. Travelers would speak of their amazing luxury, but underneath all that beauty and wealth, something dark was growing. These cities had no respect for God. Their people had turned away from what was right and fair. Violence, pride, and cruelty became their way of life. Their streets were filled with rude noises and bad desires, not happy songs. They turned away strangers and hurt those who couldn't defend themselves. They loved to sin and called it freedom. The prophet Ezekiel later wrote about them. "This was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were proud, ate too much, and didn't care about others. They didn't help the poor and needy. They were arrogant and did terrible things in front of me. So I got rid of them, as you have seen." Even the angels in heaven heard the cries of pain, unfairness, and suffering. So God himself came down to see it with his own eyes. One hot afternoon, Abraham was sitting by his tent in the oak trees of Mamre. He looked up and saw three men standing nearby. These were not just any travelers. They were messengers from heaven. One was the Lord himself, looking like a human. The other two were angels. Abraham immediately stood up, as if something deep inside him knew these were special visitors. He ran to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please don't pass by your servant. Let me bring a little water so you can wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can feel better, and then you can continue your journey." The three men agreed, and Abraham quickly prepared a big meal: fresh bread, cheese, milk, and a specially chosen calf. He stood by them as they ate, honored to serve these heavenly guests. After they finished eating, the Lord turned to Abraham and spoke. "The cries against Sodom and Gomorrah are very loud. Their sin is extremely serious. I will go down to see if they have done everything that has been reported. If not, I will know." As the angels went ahead, Abraham stood before the Lord, and he did something very brave, something only a man who truly knows God would dare to do. He stepped forward and begged. "My Lord," Abraham began humbly, "will you sweep away the good people with the bad?" He pleaded, "What if there are 50 good people in the city? Will you still destroy it?" Abraham asked, his voice shaking with courage and respect. "To kill the good with the bad, treating them the same way. Will not the judge of all the earth do what is right?" The Lord answered, "If I find 50 good people in Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Abraham became even bolder. "What if there are 45 or 40, 30, 20? Each time the Lord answered patiently, "For their sake, I will not destroy it." Finally, Abraham said, "Let me speak one more time. What if only 10 are found there?" The Lord said, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." Abraham didn't dare to ask for less. Then the Lord left, and Abraham went back to his tent, his heart heavy, hoping there were at least 10 good souls in the city. The sun began to set. The two angels got closer to the gates of Sodom, and the time of judgment crept nearer. By the way, if you are finding this story interesting, meaningful, or simply enjoyable, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue to create more content like this for you. Your support means a lot. As night fell over Sodom, the two angels arrived at the city gates. There sat Lot, Abraham's nephew, right at the entrance of the city. Years before, he had chosen to live in Sodom, attracted by its wealth and rich lands, even though he knew its bad reputation. When Lot saw the visitors, he stood up and bowed low. "My lords," he said, "please come to your servant's house and stay the night. Wash your feet and wake up early to continue your journey." The angel said, "No, we will spend the night in the town square." But Lot insisted strongly. He knew what the city was capable of. He knew what happened in the town square at night. The streets were not safe, not for travelers, and not even for innocent people. Finally, they agreed, and he brought them into his home and prepared a meal. But before they went to bed, a terrible noise filled the streets. Men from Sodom, young and old, from every part of the city, surrounded the house. They banged on the door and shouted, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so we may know them." Their demand was not about being friendly. It was a violent, immoral demand. The phrase "to know them" in this situation meant sexual assault, showing how evil Sodom was and how they treated outsiders badly. Lot rushed outside and closed the door behind him. "Please, my brothers, don't do this evil thing," he begged. But then, in a moment that has confused readers for centuries, Lot made a shocking offer. "I have 2 daughters who have never been with a man. Let me bring them out to you and you can do whatever you want with them. But don't do anything to these men. They are under my protection." Lot's offer was horrifying, a sad sign of how much moral corruption he had picked up from his surroundings. Even while trying to protect his guests, he showed how twisted the city's values had become. But the crowd only got angrier. "Get out of our way," they shouted. "This man came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to judge us. We will treat you worse than them." They rushed at Lot to break down the door. But at that moment of fear, the strangers showed their divine power. They suddenly made the mob blind. Panic spread. The men stumbled around trying to feel their way in the dark, unable to find their path. Lot stared in shock. These were not ordinary men. These were messengers from God. The angels turned to Lot. "Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here. We are going to destroy this place. The cry to the Lord is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." Lot ran out to find his sons-in-law, the men who were supposed to marry his daughters. "Hurry, leave this place. The Lord is about to destroy the city." But they just laughed at him. To them it sounded like a joke. The idea of God's judgment seemed silly in a city so sure of its own wickedness. At dawn, the angels urged Lot again. "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters and run, or you will be swept away." But Lot waited. Was he scared? Did he love his home too much? Was he full of doubt? The Bible doesn't say, but he hesitated. So the angels, showing God's mercy, grabbed their hands, Lot, his wife, and his daughters, and led them out of the city. The Lord had mercy on them, not because they were good, but because he remembered Abraham's prayer. Once outside, one of the angels said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop in the valley. Run to the mountains, or you will be destroyed." Lot begged, "Please, my Lord, I can't run to the mountains. Disaster will catch me. Let me escape to that small town over there. It's tiny." The angel agreed. "Very well. I will not destroy the town you speak of, but hurry. I can't do anything until you reach it." The town was called Zoar, which means small. Just as the sun rose over the land, Lot and his family ran towards the small town of Zoar. Then it happened. The Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the sky, not just on Sodom, but also Gomorrah. A storm of judgment fell from above. The sky turned red. The ground shook. Buildings fell apart. Fields burst into flames. People screamed. But it was too late. Everything in the valley, cities, homes, gardens, animals, was wiped out in an instant. But as they ran, Lot's wife looked back. Her heart was still tied to what she had left behind. And in that single moment of not obeying and longing, something began to change. Her skin turned white. Tiny grains appeared on her cheeks like sudden frost. Her arms became stiff. Her feet grew heavy, stuck to the ground. Then, all at once, she became a pillar of salt. God's mercy had pulled them out of the fire. But looking back cost her everything. Lot's story didn't end in Zoar, though. Afraid to stay in the town, he ran with his 2 daughters into the mountains. There they hid in a cave, alone and broken. A sad and twisted story followed. Thinking no man would ever come to them, Lot's daughters, who had grown up in the moral dirtiness of Sodom, got their father drunk, and each had a child by him. The sons born from them would become the Moabites and the Ammonites, nations born in sin, nations that would later fight against Israel. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah was told through generations. The prophets spoke of it. Jesus himself mentioned it. The cities became a symbol of God's justice, not just for wickedness, but for people who turned away from God's ways and hurt innocent people. What was their sin? With their wealth and easy lives, they became careless. With their pride, they became cruel. And with their freedom, they gave themselves completely to twisted desires, unfairness, and violence. But don't misunderstand, judgment didn't come in a moment. God warned, he watched, and he waited. Only when mercy was completely used up, only when even the cries of the suffering reached heaven, only then did fire fall. Yet even in this dark story, we also see a spark of mercy. God saved Lot. He remembered Abraham's prayer. He delayed judgment until the good people were removed. This is a story of patience, a story of justice, and a story of grace for those who listen, change, and remember God's ways. And what about today? We look at our world, at cities full of wealth and wonder, yet also full of pride, violence, and twisted desires. We see nations like the US and Western countries, once shaped by Bible values, now embracing the very sins that marked Sodom. Twisted desires protected as freedom, pride praised as confidence, the poor ignored while luxury thrives, sexual confusion taught as identity, greed applauded as ambition, blasphemy disguised as bravery, nudity now a form of expression, corruption excused as strategy, prayer made fun of while evil is celebrated, and those who stand for God are silenced. Many today live as if judgment will never come, carried along by a wave of moral decay that claims to be progress. But the Bible warns, righteousness makes a nation great, but sin brings shame to any people. Yet even now there is hope. God still listens. He still saves. He still offers mercy to those who will turn, say sorry, and find safety in him. Let every heart remember, the Lord is slow to get angry, full of love, but he will not let the guilty go unpunished. The fire that fell was not just punishment. It was a message across time, a call for cities, families, and individuals to wake up, to turn back, and to remember the God who judges also saves. In this world that so much looks like Sodom's corruption, following Jesus can feel like going against the flow, a lonely path that many reject. Following Jesus might feel unpopular. People may call us boring or old-fashioned. The pressure to fit in can be huge, and the voices of the world will often make fun of our faith and values. But remember, the people of Sodom followed the crowd into destruction, and their story is a warning. We are called to be different, to resist what most people are doing, and stand strong in the truth. Jesus said, "Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." The crowd does not lead to life. It leads to death. So refuse to follow the crowd blindly as the people of Sodom did. Live differently, love bravely, and shine as lights in the darkness. In a world chasing shadows, Jesus is the solid rock, the true hope, and the way to life. Stand firm, therefore, in your faith, even if it feels unpopular, because the narrow path with Jesus leads to a rich, and eternal life. If you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to do so. It really helps us continue providing you with amazing videos like this. And for those who want to dive deeper into these profound stories and understand their timeless lessons, a special study Bible can be an invaluable guide. You'll find a link to a recommended study Bible in the bio, offering deeper insights and context to help you explore God's Word further.